All right, guys, we've got Coach here. Press conference in advance of San Jose State. Home regular season finale and senior day for us. So we will start with Coach here in just a second. I'm going to get this set up to record. And then we will open it up for questions. So, Harsh, I am recording. We'll start with you.
All right, well, happy Monday. Back at it and getting ready for San Jose State. So we are normal week and 2 p.m. kickoff. We saw that. So we'll have our normal practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then obviously get up a little bit earlier on Saturday morning, be ready to play. And San Jose didn't play last week, so they had, because of COVID, they didn't play, so we didn't get their game last week. And I'm not sure exactly what they did. Kind of treat it like a bye, I'm sure, for those guys, and we certainly have to do the same thing. So we've gone back and watched the film that we do have. Obviously a common opponent. We played them last year, and on to getting ourselves prepared this week. A little bit different week with no school, Thanksgiving coming up. Hopefully we're getting a chance to get some guys healthy through this week, and those guys getting in the training room and just kind of getting themselves a little bit more time for recovery and some treatment, and then get after it in practice. But as far as San Jose State, very good team. Got another transfer quarterback. That seems to be the place to go if you're a transfer QB, and they do a very good job. They play well. Those quarterbacks play well. And so I think they're well coached. Their offensive coordinator does a very good job. They got explosive players on the offensive side, wide receivers, tight ends, tailbacks. Their backup quarterback, number 16, Nick Nash, is very good, very athletic. I think he's one of the leading rushers on the team. And so when he comes in, they use him certain ways, but he certainly can throw it. So you got to be aware of him. Defensively, number 1 in scoring defense in the Mountain West. So they've been playing well on that side of the ball. And 5 returning starters. So some experience back and a team that was a very tough game for us last season. So overall, they're undefeated, and they've had a chance to really just focus on us, to spend time on getting themselves prepared. And now it kind of comes back to us. What do we have to do? How are we getting ourselves healthy and back and ready to go for this week? The same challenges that we faced the week before with COVID and all the different things we have to deal with. How's that going to look at the end of the week? We will see. So with that, open up for questions.
Start with Will Hall, and then we'll go Ron, BJ, and Jay.
Harsh, obviously a crazy, unique 2020, sort of a life question compared to football, but just curious, this year, 2020, as we celebrate Thanksgiving this week, what are you most thankful for?
Well, I'm thankful for right now, of the conditions, just the health of not only myself, but my family and the players on this team and coaches and everybody involved in our program. And, there's a lot of challenges with football. We know that. There's always challenges, but you throw on top the pandemic, the issues of, isolation and different things that we have to do, right, to stay safe. There's a lot of factors in there. And so just the day-to-day, right? You wake up and, hey, the day goes well and people stay healthy. You're able to be around people. I think we're doing a good job operating every day and trying to do our best to keep ourselves safe so that we can be out there together, but more importantly, safe. And then trying to support each other, which is a challenge in itself. All right. And then you mentioned it too. I mentioned it, just the families. This is the first time at the end of games I haven't had my family on the field, or the coaches, or anybody else's family. Even the coaches that are coming here, or when our families travel, the parents of our players. It's been challenging. When we ran out into Hawaii Stadium, at least here we have a band and we have some type of environment. There was none They had nothing. They had some speakers they brought in that we use in our highlight video on the road that were just set up out there, not even the stadium speakers. No environment whatsoever at that place. So, we had to, you can kind of hear it in my voice, we had to yell and scream and create our own energy and create an environment. So the fans, right now, you really, it's important when you play somewhere, or especially here, and you have your fans with you for support. It makes a big difference. All right. And we run out there and there's 35, 36,000 people every game under normal conditions. Hey, that's awesome. You want it to be 37,000 people, right? Every single time. And now you can't wait until you run back out there again and this place is packed and it's rocking and we have that atmosphere, and I'm sure that's everywhere across the country. So there's a lot to be thankful for. I know there's a lot of people that are in worse conditions than we are and are dealing with the pandemic and all the issues that come along with it, right? There's people that have been laid off, furloughed, and you talk about life changing, and to me, it's just, we all need to stay focused, right? We will get through this. We will make it. This will end. I don't know what, everybody talks about the new normal. We'll get back on track and we'll be better for it. And people just have to hang on and believe that. And for whatever reason, we're all being challenged through this. So learn from it, grow from it. And then when we do get back to where it's regular and we're doing some of the things that we're used to doing, hopefully we're all better for it. And we've learned something along the way, and that we can take that and those improvements help us, as we move forward. Certainly for some of us older guys and people, we're a little more established. So we kind of know our routine day to day, and this affects us. But when you really think of young people that are trying to build and grow and develop themselves, and things are happening really fast, and they, like we all did when we were young, we just want to be there, right? You want to be in that position where everything's kind of settled in. That's where it's difficult. These high school kids and certainly our players, they just see these days going by, and it's like, these opportunities, they're missing these opportunities. They feel that way. And so you got to understand that, that a little bit of that urgency that everybody has when they're young, guys feel that. I know everybody feels that. So, my kids, one's in college, one's married, one's in high school, and, you feel like, hey, we're missing these opportunities. And it's like, yes, you are. However, you still have to learn from this and apply it when we do get back to where you're going to have those opportunities and it's normal again. So to stay focused on that, it's very difficult. It takes all of us. We need to be positive. We already have enough negative going on, so we need to eliminate that, stay as positive as we can, and help each other out through this, and we'll be better for it in the end.
Ron.
So, Coach, if there's one stat you've got to be really happy with this season, it's red zone scoring. You guys have scored on all 16 trips in the red zone there. What does that say about your roster to be able to finish drives with points this year?
Well, that's very good. I don't know about the roster. It's changed, obviously, but it's more of a mindset. I think Coach Keesaw and the offensive staff and all the players have done a good job of emphasizing that. We've talked about it for many years, and we've always emphasized it. I do believe this particular group on offense, they get down in the red zone, they want to finish, and Jonah Dalmas too. He's been a big weapon down there. You get in field goal range. He's been consistent. That needs to continue. But it's always that mindset. You've done all this work to get down there close enough to score. Let's put the ball in. Let's finish the drive. Let's get points. We need that. And I also think too, under the conditions, every week it's a little bit different lineup. I think guys understand, like, we need to score. We need touchdowns when we get down there. And another part of that too, special teams, field position has helped us. It's nice when you can start a drive at the 50-yard line or the plus 40-yard line versus being back on your minus 10-yard line. So I think special teams have been a big part of that. It's really a combination of everything coming together and helping the offense out to put themselves in a position to execute plays and also to finish drives and score. But we need to continue that. I mean, that's a great stat right now. That needs to be continued, and we got to be consistent in the red zone moving forward.
And we've seen Devon Obichet and Shane Irwin in the starting lineup quite a bit the last few weeks. I'm curious, what have you thought of their growth since they've been on campus? And has their experience been kind of a blessing this year, given that you've had to kind of adjust the roster almost every week?
Yeah, Shane Irwin. I mean, he's a Bronco through and through. I know he transferred in here, but he's exactly the type of guy that we want in this program. Blue collar, hard worker, tough as nails, and just goes. Whatever he's asked to do, he does it, and he's productive. He's made plays. Divine has worked extremely hard since he got here. He's gotten himself in really good shape. That wasn't the case when he first got here, and we were doing all the conditioning and everything that we do. And then being in the lineup, you can see that he's got the ability to make plays. And the more he does it, the more confidence he builds, and the better player we get to see every single week. So Divine's a guy that, and no different too. I mean, just his attitude when you're around Divine, it's like whatever it takes. This is what I got to do. This is what we're doing this week. Very sharp when it comes to football and knowing, what he has to do inside and how to defeat whatever schemes we're seeing from the offensive side. But those two guys and Scott Matlock, I mean, Scott Matlock has been the rock on the defensive line. I mean, that guy is out there doing everything he can, every single play, every single practice, leading that group, keeping the energy up. So those three guys in particular, they've been asked to do a lot with a very limited number of guys at that position. And you see them playing, every Saturday or whatever day we play, but they practice and take every single rep almost. And hopefully, we get some guys back. We get a little more depth. We can lighten that up a little bit for those guys, but their production has been great. And, I told you guys this a couple of weeks ago when we played Colorado State. I mean, we felt very strongly about how the D-line has accepted the challenges they've been faced, and those guys in particular have gone out there and produced.
Hey, Bryan, with the no divisions this year in Mountain West play, obviously just the top two teams that make the championship game, and there's 3 undefeated teams right now in the league. I'm just kind of curious, the significance of this game. You guys have lost, the division on tiebreakers before and things like that. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to not win, to make the championship game if you don't win on Saturday. How do you look at the way the conference is shaping up? And obviously this is a pretty big game for you.
Sure. Well, number one, I don't think you're making the championship unless you win every game leading into it. So yeah, if you don't win, if you're not one of the undefeated teams, I'm not quite sure how that's all going to work out. All right. The goal is to win every game under the conditions. And I've thought of it really no differently than every single year, other than, this year, hey, like you said, there's no divisions here. You got to win every single game. The best way to guarantee yourself to be in the championship is win every game in your conference. And certainly with San Jose State, Boise State, and Nevada, those are the undefeated teams right now. And if you want to play for a championship, you gotta win every game in your conference. So it's a big game. Big for a lot of reasons. They're undefeated. It's senior night, all right, under these conditions. So a little bit different, but still senior night nonetheless. And, we've got to find ways to be better than we were last game. We did things against Hawaii that were really good. We did some things that were not. And now we need to be a better football team going into San Jose State. And we know that we played a tough game against them last year. So our guys remember that. They need to prepare themselves. And if we want to keep playing at the end of the season and play for a championship, then you got to win every single game this year.
It's funny you mentioned senior night. That was my next question. You've got a lot of seniors that are quote unquote seniors, but have potentially the chance to come back again next year. How are you guys, I guess is a 2-part question, but how are you guys handling that in the thought in terms of if those guys want to come back next year? Are you like a Riley Wimpy, those kind of guys? Are you going to find a way to let them come back? And if they have already expressed interest in that, are they not going to go through senior night on Saturday or?
No, you know what? We haven't talked about that. We haven't gotten to who's coming back and any of things at this point. I'm sure guys have thought about it. I've heard rumblings of it and all that stuff. We haven't sat down and said, all right, you, and you. And the NCAA, just to be clear, so the NCAA made the rule that players will get another year. Every university is going to be different. Just because they made the rule doesn't mean every university is going to be able to follow that, all right, in their own program. Now, every player could be eligible for another season. So that still is to be determined. I mean, right now we're obviously in a position where, we're looking for leadership in our athletic department right now. We need to figure out, all right, how all these things get answered, probably sooner than later. But right now, hey, you're a senior. Nobody knows if you're coming back. Nobody knows what the situation is. And it's not just seniors, it's everybody on the team. There's going to have to be some decisions that are made at the end of the year. And even in recruiting, we haven't even signed our class yet. So there's obviously some movement going on in recruiting. We're never going to have these guys on campus. And honestly, to me, that bothers me more than anything. You don't get to see these guys in person. You're going to bring new players into your team, and there's really, other than Zoom, no other way to connect with these guys and actually physically see them. That's going to be interesting, and how that class turns out. Are they the people and the type of players that you expected? And I'm sure there's going to be some that are better and some that are worse when it's all said and done. But these seniors will go out there and they'll run on the field, and we'll have our moment. I think all these things we'll talk about as we get closer to the end of it. When the year's coming to an end, what we're doing, we'll hopefully have some more answers by then. But right now, the focus and what everybody needs to understand, because I believe, sometimes when you get a ruling like we did through the NCAA, now it's kind of like, well, I got another year. This doesn't matter. That's the wrong mentality. And some guys have certainly taken that. I got another year. Football's hard to sit out. Football's hard not to just keep developing every year. I mean, the only way to get better at football is to play football. That's how you get better at the game. I know there's some freaks out there that don't have to play and they'll still be first-round draft picks. All right, there's very few of those guys you can just roll a ball out and they don't even have to practice and they'll just be better than everybody else. There are some of those people that play this game. They're not in this program, I can tell you that. And you got to play, and you got to be focused on playing to the best of your ability and focused on what's right in front of you. And if you start getting distracted with coming back or next seasons or anything like that, this team will never be the same. The group of, everybody, players, coaches, all that, every single year is different. We know that. It's never going to be the same when this season is over. It won't be the same team. All right. Won't be any of those things. There'll be changes. All right. And that's just what happens every single year. Not anybody's fault. That's just the nature of, a football program, and not just ours. So I hope our guys are focused, and there hasn't been any talks, at least to me, about anything otherwise. We're focused on San Jose State. We're focused on how do we win another game? How do we improve? How do we overcome the challenges that we're going to face this week with somebody possibly being out, or getting guys back and getting them back into the mix? We have enough on our plate right now. Like Will was asked, we have enough on our plate right now just to focus on every day and just wake up, all right, and hope that everything in the morning goes well from the testing the day before, and that we have enough guys to go out there and practice and have a really good practice. And then by the end of the week, we can have enough guys to go out there and play, and that everybody stays healthy and safe and injury-free, and we can go compete and try to win another ball game. So after that, all these things I think will figure themselves out. But, I'm proud of our guys, and I appreciate our players, and I appreciate our coaches and everybody, all the things that they're doing. But there's going to be a lot of things that change, and I'm sure there's going to be other things that come out from the NCAA that may or may not help us, at the end of the year, when we try to figure out, all right, what's this roster look like moving forward? So my advice to everybody, they better focus on the task at hand, which is San Jose State, what's right in front of them. You're a senior, run out there. If you did it this time and you do it again next year, so what? We already did senior speeches as well. So if they happen to come back, do it again. I mean, it's really one of those, like, at this point, that really doesn't matter right now. What matters is what we're trying to accomplish and how we go finish this season. That's what matters at this point.
Jay Tust, followed by Mike Prater.
Hey, Bryan. I know that talking about COVID probably gets a little exhausting, but, so far you guys are one of 3 programs in the Mountain West that hasn't had a game canceled due to COVID protocols. And I'm curious, what is the most suspenseful day of the week for you outside of game day? And then when do you actually feel comfortable like you're going to play a game? And the Mountain West also says you need to have 53 players and a certain number of defensive linemen to play. Would you agree to play a game without some of those limitations ever?
Well, every day, right? Every day during the week of practice, it's concerning. Just what do we need to do prior to practice, or maybe that evening too? There might be an injury. We've had injuries in practice. We've had guys out because of COVID, contact tracing. And what happens is literally you have maybe 15 minutes in the morning once you get some results to really shift some things around. And, you'd be amazed to watch Coach Alley and Coach Venable take the special teams depth chart and change it in 5 minutes, all right, with a very thought out 5 minutes of planning, and then be able to go out there and execute our special teams that day. Because now this guy, you're moving everybody around because maybe a couple guys are out. That becomes a little stressful day to day. I think the least stressful day is game day, when it comes to at least just, your people and everybody being there and knowing what you have. Now, the game itself is stressful. There's obviously the opponent and what they're going to do. And, but I would say that's more fun than just the regular week, because the environment and what's going to happen that day on game day, right? You have everybody there, and then you go play the game and enjoy it because you made it that far. So, that's really how it goes. And at the same time, making sure that everybody is safe, and we're still following, we have our protocols for testing, but all the things you do normally day to day, all right, around the facility, how we operate, the cleaning, all those things, it still goes on. We haven't talked about that. And that was a big deal several months ago. It's still a big deal now. We haven't forgot all the things that we have to do to just operate day to day. What was your second question?
Oh, well, it was the Mountain West, they say that you need to have 53.
Yeah, the 53-man roster. No, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's just because the NCAA comes out and makes rules doesn't mean that it's very thought out every single time. I mean, that doesn't mean that it's just like, well, this is what's best. 53-man roster works. Well, why? I mean, you got one quarterback. So that's really what it comes down to. You have one quarterback. So think about that. You have one quarterback. Literally one quarterback. If that quarterback goes down, what do you do next? You put in a receiver, you put a tight end in that might be able to play quarterback, and they get pummeled for 3 quarters. I mean, it doesn't work like that. I mean, there's some common sense, and there's just some things for your own particular football team. And I'm kind of speaking in general. For your own team that says that's not the best thing for us. It doesn't mean you don't want to compete. It just means this is not going to be a good situation when we get into the game, because you can't stop the game. You're not stopping a college football game. What's going to happen is you're going to be in a position where you hope and you don't have a great plan, and then you put somebody back out there and 3 quarters of getting a guy just blown up because he's got no shot. And the other team would know that, and there's good coaches, there's smart players on the other team. Hey, load it up, and what do you do at that point? Run 3 plays and punt. So, yeah, it all sounds good, but there's got to be some common sense, and I'm sure that's why games have been canceled. I'm sure if you went down and dialed everybody's numbers in, that roster had 2 quarterbacks. They had enough, but there was just guys that, even though they had the number of people, 2 of those people may not have any chance of playing. They're not even kind of ready. You're going to throw that freshman D lineman in there that you're hoping by his junior year is 280 pounds, but he's 205 pounds right now. You got no chance. And I think you got to just look at it like that. So just because they put a number out there doesn't mean that's the right thing to do in every situation. And I think that's why we're seeing games canceled. I literally don't think it's because of everybody's numbers or below that. I think that's what they use as the reason why. I think it's because they look at it and go, if this guy goes down, we could play, but if he goes down, we got no chance. And not only because of losing the game, but because you're going to put stress on other guys where they could get hurt and bad things can happen. And, that's not the right thing to do. So numbers do matter, and having the right guys out there too, that does matter as well. And that's not shy away from accepting the challenge, but you got to be able to have guys that can actually do it.
I don't know if this is true or not real quick, but I heard that you reached out to Mike Babcock maybe this offseason, or at least looked to do so. Did you do that? And if so, why?
Well, I got a question for you. How did you know that? I did do that. Yes, I did. So the reason I reached out to Mike Babcock, I read his book, Leave No Doubt. That was given to me by Brett Rippon. And there's a connection with Brett's dad. That was an important book to Brett at the time. He'd given it to Zach Hill. He'd given it to me. So I read it. Really liked it. Really liked all the points. I've used it in team meetings. I've used it for the last several years. And so I did. Yeah, I mean, during COVID, I reached out to him and got a chance to talk to him. He was out in his farm and he had his phone. He was in his truck, and we got to talk about a few things, got a chance to get to know him and just ask him some questions of things that he's been through as a coach, how he's dealt with it. And I got the notes sitting right next to me. I still got some good things from just trying to learn and be productive during that time when you're not doing anything. It's all right, how can you be productive? Who could you learn from? That was a great opportunity to get some advice from him. And I loved it. He's got a great edge to him. He's a guy that, he's been a coach at the highest level and been very successful. And so just to kind of hear not only just that, but how he got into that position too. I always love to hear people's story, like what made you who you are. And it goes back to something when they were younger, right? Or some other coach or something, some experience. And, that's what drove him to be in that position. And that's why he is the way he is. And, so I learned a lot about him through that conversation, but I always appreciate that when guys like that take the time. And I don't know if it was hour and 15 minutes just to have a conversation and talk about, he asked me some questions too. And I like that. You talk to another coach, and especially someone that you don't know that well, and they're a no BS guy, they're going to fire back at you and go, what are you about? And it's great to answer those questions, because then you get to figure out, all right, what am I about based off this question? And it challenges you and you got to answer it. And then you realize, hey, that's really good, or this is something that needs to improve. But yeah, it was good. Good conversation.
Prater, good time for a quick one.
Hey, Bryan, you mentioned it in the post-game show on Saturday, the defense. You talked specifically about your disappointment in the lack of tackling. There's a lot of non-Boise State type defensive numbers out there, so the production on defense might not be up to your standards. What do you see that's going on? What issues do you have with the defense, especially in the second half when there's a lot of scoring going on against you guys in the second half as opposed to the first half?
Well, I think it comes down to tackling. I really do. I mean, we've had guys in position, and you watch it, and that not only for me, that's frustrating for everybody, right? You have a guy in a position, and even that particular player, you need to tackle, you need to wrap up. We need to get more guys to the ball. I don't always expect one guy to make the tackle. That's hard when you're going against a really good player. But we do need to get more players at the point of attack. And I think we're not as consistent, and we've used that word as we should be. We have our moments and all that, but when they're able to convert on third downs, when we're not tackling like we know we're capable of tackling, when there's an opportunity for a turnover, hey, we got to find a way to make that play. Tip ball is a great opportunity for a big play in that moment. And so, that really comes down to how we prepare. I think a lot of those things you don't tackle live in practice. That's very difficult. So that one's hard to gauge. The other things, if it's a mental error or it's something where we're not making a play on the ball, those can be practiced. All right, those can be corrected, and we got to eliminate, some of those mental errors, and we got to make plays and practice on the ball. And to me, those will change the game because defense is about momentum. When you can go 3 and out like we did against Colorado State, you create momentum and everybody feeds off of that. I think defense feeds everything. I really do. Offense, you're expected to score. Special teams, go make yards and put your offense or defense in the best field position. Defense, when you play great defense, I think everybody on the team feeds off of that. And we've shown signs of it. We just need to be more consistent at the end of the day. And that's tackling and that's making plays on balls that we have an opportunity to make a play on. And then third down, when it's 3rd and long, we got to get off the field. We got to get off the field. I mean, that's in the defense's favor. The percentages for the offense drops down to less than 25% if they're going to be in that 3rd and 10 plus. And we got to find ways to get off the field. So we've shown signs of it. We just, at the end of the day, it comes down to consistency. And that's really what, we have to improve on. And we haven't done that yet.
All right, guys. Appreciate your time today. Thanks, Hars.
Thank you.
Have a good week, guys. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Okay. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.